How you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty good actually. Yeah, pretty good in my car.
Right, exactly. I just want to point out that you think that Jamie, having a successful movie career, could afford to be somewhere other than his car. But no, I'm teasing.
It's a
I'm
nice car.
sure. I'm teasing. I've been asking this of everyone I've been talking to recently. The next few questions: is there a TV series you would love to guest star on?
Succession. It's just so good. Like it's just mind-alteringly good acting, and it's just insane.
What movie do you think you've seen the most?
Oh, probably Willy Wonka
Is that because of the family or because of you?
because of well, probably me, originally, obviously, and then we've only recently, probably in the last 12 months, started introducing the older two kids to it, and they're probably even a little bit young for it, to be honest, but I just want to get it into their sort of consciousness as early as I can.
Listen, I don't blame you. Is there a TV series that you have watched all the way through more than once?
I'm going to say no. The answer is no, but I've been very close. And we talk, you're so spoiled now because it's always just the next thing and the next thing. And this is great and this is great. So you've always got something new to look forward to. But now and again, you hit a little bit of a rut, don't you? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't really want to. And we've toyed with the idea of starting uh, starting Sopranos again. Toyed with the idea of starting The Wire again, and yeah, might be that might they're probably the two that we've toyed with. I mean, I've probably seen every Friends episode more than once, so does that count? I don't know.
No, no, it counts. It
Okay.
counts. Right. What have you been binge watching during the pandemic?
I mean, it feels so long ago now, Tiger King, doesn't it? Really, it feels like a lifetime ago. But I guess I was on that train with every single person in the world who had Netflix. Um, wow, what else have we watched? I've been watching a lot of God, that's terrible, isn't it? I don't even know. I mean, we're so tired once we put the kids to bed that we're like, we can usually squeeze out like one episode of something, and then like there's not even time for binge. It's like watch one episode and go, oh my God, it's 9 o'clock. We have to go to bed. That's kind of our life. Um, but I tell you, there's a show that I don't know how you can get it in the States, but it's a beautiful show called Mum. And it's Leslie Manville is the lead in it, who is obviously an absolute legend, and it's just so wonderful. It's just beautifully, very funny, very British, I guess, but it's very, it's really worth finding if you can. So we definitely binged that when it was on. It's done two series.
Jumping into your acting career for a second, when was the last time you remember being super nervous about getting ready to film something and why?
Every single job I do, because if you lose that, I think you're screwed. I mean, you should be sort of terrified. I even heard Michael Caine talk about that years ago about like, how the terror of and of doing it, of hearing the word action is terrifying, and just knowing you're about to commit something to celluloid for the rest of time, and all these people are working hard, and this guy's got this really tricky focus pull to do, and the camera movement's really tricky, and it's kind of, if you fuck it up, it affects all these people, and I'm very aware of that, and I carry that a lot, I think. And but I think it's right. It's a sort of nervous energy, but it's an excited energy. I just finished shooting this movie with Kenneth Branagh directing, and he's such a legend, and I'm such a fan of his, and I've always wanted to work with him. And so day one on that, I mean, it's the last thing I shot. We just wrapped. Day one on that, I was like, is Kenneth Branagh really about to watch me act and be happy with it? It's like, how's this gonna go? But it was like the most joyous experience ever.
Oh, we're going to get to Belfast in a little bit.
Okay.
What's funny is I interviewed Kenneth earlier this year, and he was telling me about how he was writing something personal, and we were going
Right.
to shoot it later this year. And he wasn't specific with me, but now I know what it is, and everything
Yeah.
else. What's the most important thing you need in your trailer?
um, Probably like some sort of like I'm obsessed with this stuff called biltong, which is like a South African, but you can get it everywhere now. It's basically like a dried out meat. I mean, it's like a fancier version of jerky, I guess. You guys have jerky, but jerky's quite dry, I find, and it's a little bit. I'm one of those people. I pretty much am only happy if I'm eating. So I try to like make sure my trailer's stocked with like stuff that's like filling and high in protein, and they'll keep me going a bit. So probably that, or this crazy, when we were doing Wild Mountain Time, Emily got me hooked on this like this I don't know, it's like an energy drink. I think we called it our acting juice. It was like we felt that we got to a stage where we sort of couldn't work without it. It was this crazy like fizzy energy drink that like Dwayne Johnson had got her into when they did Jungle Cruise or something. It's kind of crazy thing. So I might need that from now on.
Got it. Well, what you didn't realize, it's called Jolt Cola. It's just caffeine and sugar.
That stuff, no, it's not that stuff. That stuff is rocket fuel.
Right, exactly. Listen, anything that Dwayne is drinking is obviously super healthy.
Exactly. Will I look like him, do you think?
You're going to land on your feet. You're going to be okay. Right. What props or costumes have you taken home from set?
I don't do that. I've not really done that. I don't think, no. I tell you, the only one that sort of comes to mind, I remember, and yeah, no, my like paramedic jacket in Synchronic, they gave me that at the end as a gift, because I think I'd voiced a lot of, while we were shooting, I'd done a lot of, I love this, I really love this jacket. I would wear this jacket, socially. So they gave me that as a gift at the end. But usually I don't ask for stuff or take stuff.
It's interesting. I totally would be taking everything and having a storage unit filled with crap. But that's me.
I think if I was on like, something really iconic, like Star Wars or something, I'd probably be trying to take some sort of prop that like everyone would know about and have it in a case on my, shelf or something. But I haven't done that yet.
You, many years ago, before you were an actor, you used to do modeling work for like Hugo Boss and Calvin Klein and a bunch of places. Can you watch the movie Zoolander and have fun with it? You've seen Zoolander, right?
Of course, I've seen Zoolander. I love, it's such a brilliant movie. It's so obviously so funny. What is crazy about it is that like, well, I'll tell you what, I was really lucky because I never did runway. I've never done a catwalk in my life. I kind of hated modeling, to be honest. So I could just about get my photograph taken, which I really don't enjoy. But the whole like trying to look cool, walking up and down the thing, forget about it. Like I just couldn't do that. So I literally never did it in my life. But one time I went to try to do it in like Milan or something when I was like 20. And I sort of got laughed out of the room. I don't have a great walk anyway, and I probably wasn't really tall enough for runway stuff anyway. But I met a lot of. It's the only time really because I was sort of lucky that I did photographic stuff. It was one of the only times I was around a lot of other male models was when I went to like Milan to try to get these shows, and Zoolander isn't that far off. Some of the guys, I'm literally serious. Like some of those guys were that was kind of their vibe. They weren't like, it wasn't like, it was obviously heightened in the movie, but like, I mean, I've actually seen the clip of it's on YouTube of the thing that inspired like Ben Stiller, of these guys who are like supermodels back in the 90s or whatever. And they're not quite doing the thing at the gas station with the thing, but they're so dumb. And, great inspiration for a great comedy. But I've seen guys like that, and I'm very glad I'm not involved in that anymore.
Yeah, that's an industry that will never pass me an invite. So I can only ask about it and live vicariously through other people. Moving on to the next thing. I saw on Instagram that you had built recently a Lego set.
Yes.
I am a big fan of Lego, and I think a lot of people are big fans of Lego, especially during the pandemic when you're trapped at home. Did you have fun building that thing?
I'm going to blow your mind, Steve. Today it's half term, so my kids are off school. We went to Legoland today.
Right.
I mean, literally today. And you know, it's a great setup there, the UK Legoland. I mean, they're wiping down everything constantly. You're constantly hand sanitized. Everyone's wearing a mask. It was great, you know. And obviously it's not full, you know. They only allow a certain amount of people. But it stressed me out. Some of the things that are built with Lego, and I'm sure the huge things, they're not all Lego inside, I'm sure, but it gave me sort of flashbacks to having to build these things for the kids, because they honestly think, like, they bring it home and they want to play with it immediately, and they expect me. I sort of guess I give off this impression that I can sort of do everything, fix everything, and you know, I'm some like oracle of, like, you know, anything they need done or any information they need, that they think my wife and I can answer and can provide, which obviously isn't the case. And I mean, I had to build this bus thing, this like fun bus. I mean, it took me all day. I mean, it really took me all day. It took me 7 or 8 hours of the day building this thing. They played with it for 25 minutes, and you know, I don't think it's been touched since.
Yeah, that sounds like kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, one of the things that there's no good thing about the pandemic, because obviously it's terrible. The one thing I think is a positive, though, for famous people is you can actually go out in public and no one really knows who you are. So were you able to experience like Legoland, because you're wearing a mask? Like, could you actually experience it where people are like leaving you alone?
Right up until we left, I swear, like, nothing. Totally got away with it. I was wearing like a cap and a mask, and it was sunny, very sunny today, so I had sunglasses on some of the time. And then right at the end, we were sort of like, before we got in the car, making the girls go to the bathroom one more time before we get in the car. And I was standing outside the bathroom. I noticed a couple of the girls and staff notice and giggle and blah blah blah. And they didn't make a scene. Like, they were a little bit chatty on the way out, but you sort of can't ask for a photograph really in this time, which is you know, fortunate, unfortunate, whatever way you want to look at it. But that was it. And we'd been there for like 4 hours, and nobody had said anything. So it was pretty good. Although I did have one thing. I was in like a record store a few weeks ago, buying like rap gifts actually for Belfast. And I was wearing my mask, obviously, and I was paying, and the guy behind the counter was like, he recognized me from my voice, which is really, really weird. And he'd been like binging The Fall at the moment because it's just come on the Netflix here. So he was like, "Oh, hold on a second, are you Jamie Dornan?" And I was like, yeah, wow, this is great. I really thought no one would recognize me in this mask. And he was like, "It's your voice, it's your voice." I was like, okay.
I also think, though, if you've been binging something and you've been staring at like your eyes, and then all of a sudden, you know, and you hear the voice, you see the eyes, you're like, wait a minute, you know?
That's true. Yeah.
So jumping into why I actually get to talk to you today. So I thought Synchronic was a fantastic original sci-fi movie. I'm a huge fan of this film. What was it like? Talk a little bit about reading that script for the first time, because it's fucking cool.
Yeah, well, it is fucking cool, and it's, to be honest, it was unexpected for me. It affected me emotionally in a way that I wasn't expecting a sci-fi script to affect me. Often, you know, I'm not a huge sci-fi guy, I have to admit, but like often with sci-fi movies, I can feel fairly disconnected from the characters that I'm watching for 2 hours. I'm a bit like, I don't really care what happens to these people. They're sort of like fairly two-dimensional, and they haven't given me any information about them that's going to like attach me to them more than they're like good-looking actors like running around with laser guns. So this grabbed me in a different kind of way, you know, and I felt very connected to the story and to the plight that both these guys are going through, you know. And it was very heavy and you know, relatable, and but also had this other real fantastical, mad aspect to it. And you know, it got me at the end. I cried at the end, you know, and I really wasn't expecting to be so emotionally moved by it. And you know, I'd seen the Endless that Aaron and Justin had done, and I just thought these guys are really exciting, and they're treading new ground, and they're paving a way for a different type of sci-fi movie. I felt like, and I still feel like. So it was a cool opportunity, I think, and also I would think I was attached first, but then there was already a lot of talk about Anthony Mackie, who I was a fan of. So it was just like one of those things where shooting in New Orleans, which is a city that I really wanted to get to know. I'd been there for 2 nights before and never really stayed, and wanted to get the opportunity to know it better. So it was like this perfect sort of marriage of aspects that made me say yes very quickly.
Yeah, I obviously don't want to do spoilers, but I will say that one of the really smart things about this script is using the history of New Orleans as a major story point in the sci-fi of the film, and being able to use it in a very cost-effective way.
Yes. Totally true. And I mean, they really, I mean, it's, like you say often with movies that the city it's set in becomes a character in the movie, but I mean, none more so than this. It is so beautiful, but also, I mean, they really showed New Orleans for like every aspect that city can offer, and the sort of shiny, glitzy aspect of it, and also the really down and dirty, desolate parts of the city, of which we shot in many of them. But also that city has such a soul, the people have such a soul. And I think they did an amazing job at capturing that, and again, for they didn't have a load of money to play with, obviously, in this movie, and none of us are getting paid what I guess we're usually paid, and I just think they made it look so elevated beyond what they had with the way they shot it.
No, completely, and it's just a testament to the power of storytelling, because it's clear that this is not being made for some crazy budget, but yet they managed to tell this great story on a very limited budget. And but what when you're given a script like this, like Synchronic, how much are the directors and people telling you about the full story arc and what it is, and how much are people saying to you, hey, read the script, we don't really want to tell you too much?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. At the end of the day, it comes down to the script, and I think it's kind of good to read. I'm fortunate enough that I get sent a lot of stuff, and usually there'll be along with the script, there'll be my agent saying if it's someone that I don't know about particularly well, like if I don't know a lot about his or her stuff, there'll be a bit of a thing about like, these guys are really exciting, this woman's really exciting, you should read this or prioritize this script above those other 2 we sent, whatever it is. So there's usually, you have an idea of what you're in for, and what the appetite of your team is around the filmmaker. But essentially, I have to respond to the script, and with Synchronic, I just responded to the script, and then it was a bonus of then meeting Justin and Aaron and hearing their vision and their enthusiasm and their just the sort of joy that they seem to have of making films. They're really like, they're so thirsty for it. They are like ambitious, yes, but like they're so excited. I'm so excited that they're getting to make these movies, that they write themselves, that that Aaron is a DP on them, and that often they act in their movies. They're not this time, but everything they've done since before they've acted in. I think they're doing something at the moment that they're acting in. So they just like, it's so joyful to be around these guys who just love making movies. So it's very infectious. So I'd like the script anyway, and then I met those boys, and over Skype, or this before Zoom. Anybody knew what Zoom was, I think, before the pandemic. Then it was just, their enthusiasm was so infectious, and it always just seemed like such an easy decision.
It's so interesting because scripts are the best. Someone said this to me recently during an interview, and it's so true. Scripts are a terrible terrible blueprint for what the cinematic experience is actually going to be like, but it's the only thing you have.
Yes.
So what, if you don't mind sharing, is there like a script that you read that you're like, ooh, this is not going to work, and then it ended up being like fantastic, or a script that you thought was wow, and then it just did not, you know what I mean? Like an example of how the script can really not reflect the final product.
Yeah, it's that's why it's often really good to if there's a lot in there that you do um I don't know, cling on to. There's a lot in there that you do like about a script. It's always worth, hearing, discovering what else you can find out about how they want it to look. And now when you get a script, it's very rare to get a script that doesn't have a lookbook attached and all, like a deck showing you like shot ideas and real like very detailed description of the characters and biographies, and a more in-depth idea of why they're telling the story and the director's vision. So usually that accompanies a script these days, which is really, really helpful, because you can read a script one way and then you see what their visual landscape is like for it, and you're like, oh wow, it's really not how I saw it, and that's actually maybe better than how I saw it, or that's like way off and actually don't. If they want it to look like that, which if you're seeing it at that stage, that's how they want to look at it, that's how they want it to look, then it maybe doesn't work out so much. I've had scripts I've read where I've kind of really liked it, and visually, and the screen directions are so dense and detailed and really beautiful, and you find yourself getting like, oh my god, this is going to look so amazing. The way the description of when they open that door and see that world for the first time, it's crazy. And then you go, actually, hold on a minute, the dialogue's terrible, and at the end of the day you have to say those words. And as actors, I'm sure I speak for everyone, we've all been in situations where you're saying words that you don't love and they don't feel that comfortable, and they don't come out easy. And so if you've had those experiences before, you have to make sure that the words on the page are words you want to say. I don't care how beautiful the description is, you've got to be able, the words have got to be great. So you've sort of ended up casting those scripts aside because of that, because at the end of the day, they can ham it up talking about how beautiful the shot's going to be and ever, but you still have to stand there and say that dialogue, and if that dialogue's not good enough, it's not going to work.
Jumping into Wild Mountain, since no one will have seen the movie yet, and I hate asking the generic thing, but can you, for people that want to know about the movie, how have you been describing it?
I've probably said this during press before for movies and maybe not totally believed it, but it is kind of like a movie like you haven't seen before. It is like, or it's like a movie from another time, and I think in the most beautiful way and really poignant way and really suitable for the time we're living in way. It is like an old school romance. It is almost fable-esque, fairy tale-esque in the sort of how sort of heightened the romance of it is. And there are these, it centers around these two fairly odd people, my character, Anthony Riley, and Emily Blunt's character, Rosemary Muldoon, who have grown up on, they're farmers, and they've grown up the neighbouring farms in rural Ireland. And there has been this crazy connection, more so from one side, for their whole lives, and they haven't been able to do anything about it. And you basically getting to glimpse into the minds of these two very complicated people who ultimately you really want to be together, as difficult as that concept seems at times because of the way they behave. But it's, I guess it's John Patrick Shanley, who is a titan of our industry, and he has a particular tone. I think this is almost going back to his earlier films, like Moonstruck, in its tone, which at the time was its own thing, and you watch Moonstruck now and it kind of lives in its own sort of world. And I hope Wild Mountain Thyme sort of finds that similar kind of place where people will get really sort of like enraptured by it. If they buy into it, they'll be like, they'll be really into it. Yeah, but I don't think it's like anything else anyone's going to see this year or next year.
I watched it last night, and I will say that you are 100% correct. It is not like something, it is an old school romance. You play a character that is very emotionally closed off. And what is that like, you know, because obviously that isn't you, you know? So what is that like?
I mean, it was a huge challenge for me, but actually weirdly, you know, I guess if, I mean, it kind of is set modern day, but I think you'll agree with me that it almost feels like it's set in another time. If, you know, let's say it is today, Anthony's on the spectrum. He is, and, you know, and I'm not saying that's a negative thing or anything, but he would be classified as someone who's on the spectrum now. He's someone who finds dealing with his own emotions, other people's emotions, very difficult, you know. And he is someone who is not quite world ready, I would say. He's kind of a bit, he's sort of been disconnected from the world for most of his life, and as a result has a lot of social anxiety and is a difficult person in his own skin. And I feel like there's a lot, you know, I find there, as much as, you know, you can often give off this idea that you're confident or gregarious or have stories to tell or have a sort of you know a likeness of yourself, whatever it is, all these things that you try to emit, often inside you're terrified, and you feel like you really can't expose certain aspects of yourself. And there's a lot of Anthony that I felt that I had within me, and a lot of his strangeness and his quirkiness. And I think a lot of people do carry that within them and maybe don't let the world see it a lot of the time. And so it was nice for me, I feel, to be able to maybe through Anthony show a lot of my own sort of oddness, quirkiness, weirdness that I carry within my own bones. And it's just a joy to play him. I mean, it was such an incredible experience making that movie, you know, with that cast and with John, and it was a mad, brilliant experience.
I have literally like 15 questions about that film, and I have 1 minute left with you, so I need to move on. We'll talk again when the movie's coming out. I will just say, for everyone who's going to watch it, make sure you have a Guinness in hand.
Yeah, you should just make sure you have a Guinness in hand whenever you're watching any movie.
Right. My only beef with the film is that there's a Guinness bottle that's in the film, and I just really wanted them to be drinking from the tap. It was the whole thing. But let's move on, because I'm basically out of time. But I really have to talk about Belfast and Kenneth Branagh, because there's not much information known about it. What are you allowed to say about what the film is about and who you play?
Probably not that much. You know, you can look into it what you will, that like Ken is originally from Belfast, and this is a story called Belfast. So, you know, I probably can't say too much more than that. Well, but it's
let me say this.
As he you know, as he said to you when you interviewed him, I presume for Tenet.
Actually, it was for Artemis Fowl.
Oh, it's for Artemis Fowl, okay. But it's deeply personal. It's deeply personal story for Ken, as he's already divulged to you. So yeah, it's a personal story about you know, that involving Ken, I guess, is all I can say. But I had an absolute dream making that movie. I mean, I literally wrapped 2 weeks ago, and you know, I don't think it's a secret that Judi Dench is in it, and Kieran Hines and Katrina Balfe and all these amazing people. Again, similar to Wild Mountain Thyme, just felt so lucky, and Synchronic, and I feel like everything I've done recently, I've been surrounded by these incredible actors and support players we've all just been this sort of magical team with people I look up to, and it's I feel very lucky.
I know it takes place in the late 60s, and I think it's basically about a boy growing up in the 60s, and it's essentially Kenneth, from what I can understand.
You know, I mean, listen, you know.
No, I know you can't say anything. Listen, I got to stop there, but I really mean it, that everyone should watch Synchronic, especially if you want to see original sci-fi and support original sci-fi. And we'll definitely talk again for Wild Mountain, because of, you know, I want to talk about Christopher Walken and the insane scenery, and it was like picturesque. I mean, there's a million things to talk about.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I love that.
Yeah, and on that note, congrats on everything, and thank you for indulging all my stupid questions at the beginning.
Thanks, Steve. Always a pleasure, man.